The father of the Aesir, master of runic magic, the hanged god of the world tree, the one-eyed one, Odin. Among our legends, few gods hold such a weight as him, often compared to the Greek god Zeus for their similar position in the pantheon. Odin could not be more different, be it in disposition or power. So, how strong is Odin? Well, Odin tends not to fight in mythology, but when he does, it's against beings that are so far above the average human that it would be ridiculous to assume he's at a human level at all. But he always fares well against these far beyond human threats. For example, in the Prose Edda, in the Gylfaginning, Odin, alongside his brothers Vili and Ve, slay the primordial frost giant Ymir, a giant whose body was so large that when balled up and contorted, it became the planet Earth. At a low end for this feat, Odin was able to do harm to a planetary-sized opponent and kill him with the aid of two others. This would scale Odin anywhere from multi-continental to moon levels of power for doing such damage, and depending on how long the fighting took. Most fairly, however, since the body had to be broken apart and contorted by Odin, Vili, and Ve, they should all scale to somewhere around small planetary, and maybe towards the higher ranges of that, since they had to knock down Ymir after all. Further backing this is his encounter with Fenrir, who we all know can scrape the earth and sky with its mouth when fully opened. An absolute giant of a wolf that at minimum scales to mountain level, taking the scraping of the sky as passing through the clouds, up to country level if he scours the earth in equal degree to which he touches the sky, to even moon levels, thanks to the implication that Fenrir is as mighty as the wolves that chase the moon or sun, supporting Odin's moon-level scaling. Though in that same vein of cosmic scaling, Odin would go on to throw sparks from Muspelheim into the sky, creating stars. At minimum, this is a star-level creation feat. Being able to transmute matter into stars, and potentially into large stars, and likewise this would scale up to solar system levels, considering we don't know how many stars he would be creating at any given time. And if we use the idea that he created the stars that the Norse would be seeing at night in the northern hemisphere, the feat would potentially climb to multi-solar system level, considering he'd be creating the arm of the Milky Way galaxy that the northern hemisphere can see. Then, wouldn't that contradict Thor being the strongest? I mean, I scaled Thor to planetary as the, proper scaling in my mind, so how can he be weaker than Odin when all of the gods call him the strongest? Well, that's because Thor is the strongest. No one is doubting Thor's physicality here. He has the best lifting feats between raising the Midgard serpent, shaking the world tree, and then hurling the Midgard serpent. The best striking feats, creating valleys with his hammer, felling the world serpent again, and his best combat feat, wrestling the embodiment of time passing. None of Odin's physical feats amount to those planetary ranges of attack power and the potential universal ramifications of fighting the embodiment of time. His highest scaling is into that low planetary ranges of power, with killing Ymir and making the Earth being the bulk of that scaling. Which, again, in terms of raw strength, means Thor is certainly stronger than Odin. Just not as versatile, and certainly not as cunning. Thor is not stupid by any means, but his power is quite clearly in his brute strength. And this is where we get to that thing that separates Odin from Zeus. You see, Odin's power comes from runic magic that he learned whilst pierced and hanging from Yggdrasil, having sacrificed an eye for knowledge and his body for power. Now, while Zeus can transmute himself in numerous ways, Odin often just disguises himself, which puts them quite parallel, but in the Havemal, as listed, Odin certainly bears abilities that even Zeus would be jealous of. The first spell he merely calls help, and in legal trouble or in sadness, it remedies the situation to a victorious turn, a lesser prayer of victory, perhaps. The second spell repairs injuries. The third dulls the weapons of adversaries so that the weapons don't do damage. The fourth undoes the bindings of locks and chains, shattering confinement quite explosively. The fifth denies the efficacy of a thrown spear and makes it miss its marks. The sixth reverses cursed spells, targeting Odin back to the caster. The seventh snuffs flames. The eighth is a spell that calms tempers and makes heads level. The ninth can soothe the storms that torment sailors on the sea. The 10th can make hateful witches and those that play about in the air trying to find him turn around, get confused, and cast aside. The 11th is an enchantment which Odin can give to others, assuring an ally can win any battle. The 12th can be used to revive the dead, and is certainly what he did to the old witch in the Volspa to learn of Ragnarok. The 13th is a blessing that when Odin sprinkles water on a baby, that child will not die by violence. The 14th is a spell to know the names of all the gods and the elves and their number and count. The 15th is a spell that amplifies the strength of gods and the courage of the elves. The 16th, 17th, and 18th all have to do with manipulating women and drawing them close to Odin. It would appear in some regards, Zeus and Odin aren't so different after all. Regardless of that fact, Odin's amplifying magic can cure his wounds, restore dead allies to life, and bolster his own power. To what degree it's unknown, but certainly should not be overlooked. In terms of durability, we get the typical Norse response of it really doesn't matter, as Odin is destined to die at Ragnarok and therefore can't be killed before then. But let's just assume that he can be beaten, so Odin would scale at very least to his small planetary high end, as he and his siblings fought and killed Ymir, meaning that he can take just about as good as he can give out, if not a little bit more. Likewise, as stated with his speed, Odin can heal himself, making a battle against the Allfather even more complicated. Speed-wise, there are no direct statements of his speed, meaning at the lowest he is human speed. But come on, this is Odin. He has the ability to create stars and hurl them various distances away from the newly formed Earth, granting at least faster-than-light throwing speeds and combat speeds. And considering Odin also comes and goes when revealing himself to people, it would not be far-fetched to say that he can move at faster-than-light speeds at the minimum, or at the very least teleport. Then there is the contentious part, where Odin moved around when there was nothing but the Gnunga Gap and the primordial heat of Muspelheim and cold Niflheim, meaning Odin could move in a place without time. Thus, Odin would have undefined or irrelevant speed, since there was no time to measure how fast he moved. I try not to use those higher terms of speed, but for Odin, that is a high end and is reasonable. Of course, Odin does not come alone to battle, as he bears a helm and armor for his inevitable battle with Fenrir, things that keep him in the fight against his fated foe, and most notably, Odin bears the spear Gungnir. Gungnir, of course, being the mystical spear that when thrown never misses its target, regardless of who's throwing it. And in the hands of someone as strong as Odin, that most certainly can prove catastrophic. So let's look where Odin stands. At the low end, Odin sits firmly in that multi-continental to moon ranges of attack power, with faster-than-light speeds or some form of teleportation. As a high mid-range, he is probably small planetary, with the ability to generate stars from shed sparks, scaling him to star level, but he's unable to output that power with his bare hands, so small planetary is safe. At the high end, he can paint the sky with stars, reaching multi-solar system level in terms of explosive potential while not directly scaling to that power with his physicality, all the while moving at those faster-than-light speeds or teleporting. Odin is a lot. Fighting an opponent that can heal himself, throw sparks that become stars, form the very earth with his hands is no easy feat. Thanks for watching.